Budget 2024 has certainly sparked debate across the country, but the debate over the budget isn't limited to what is actually in it. A new debate has popped up over how the budget is promoted. According to various reports, the federal Liberals are looking to close the polling gap with the Conservatives by 5 points before July. And one of the tactics for that is to use social media content creators to talk about the budget. In the lead up to the budget, Ottawa invited content creators in to discuss Budget 2024 with the goal that those social media posts about the budget will help the Liberals eat into Pierre Poilievre's polling lead. Joining us now to unpack Ottawa's marketing strategy is digital strategist Cole Hogan. Cole, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So before we get into what works and what doesn't, when it comes to the budget and policy promotion, is the use of content creators something that's normal in Canadian politics?
It's definitely new. In the US, the Joe Biden White House has invited digital creators and influencers, ahead of the State of the Union to the White House to brief them on what will be in the State of the Union. And over the last few years and budgets, we've seen the Liberal government invite, similar digital creators and influencers to the media lockup ahead of the budget to get a sense of what's in it. Then the expectation is that these digital creators will then create organic content about it on their respective channels.
So you said organic content. I think the big question here is, are these social media influencers paid for their posts?
That's exactly it. In some reporting that was done over the weekend, it was raised that the finance ministry said that none of the influencers or digital creators were paid to attend these meetings. But as to whether or not ad budget has been spent on the digital creators' content themselves and putting government ad budget behind it, that remains a big open question.
I guess if there is money involved, if these are essentially paid ads, will they be labeled as such, or should they be labeled as such if money's involved?
According to the government's own rules, they would need to be labeled with a government of Canada or department tag.
Mhm.
The Ministry of Finance, they did say that creators weren't paid to attend these meetings, but they still haven't clarified whether or not any of the paid advertising, if paid advertising dollars are going towards any of that content. If they have been, then there needs to be a Government of Canada tag on that content so everyone knows that it's essentially a government ad. They invited a few financial advice, YouTubers, digital creators to the lockup, and we've yet to see any of that content on their channels organically. So the question again is whether or not that money has been spent on ad budget to be broadcast to Canadians more broadly.
So you bring up ad budgets. What about other social media advertising and spending? We know that all the federal parties traditionally use social media to promote their messaging. Have we seen that spending kick up after Budget 2024?
Well, no. So far, the Liberals are spending about 1,200, 1,300 a month, and the Conservatives are spending about 6,000 a month.
Mhm.
The Liberal Party raised about 15 million in 2023 compared to the Conservatives 35 million. So perhaps the Liberals are holding on to that money and living to fight another day.
And one thing that's been mentioned in terms of the approach to talking about Budget 2024 is the Prime Minister's approach now seems to be a little bit different. He's regularly appearing on numerous US podcasts. You're in this world. Is that an effective way to communicate a political message to Canadians?
It's not, because you're mainly reaching a US audience. The amount that that audience overlaps with a Canadian audience is likely city dwelling progressives who are already generally supportive of the prime minister. So you're reaching people that already are on side with you, and not really a huge listenership or viewership overall in Canada itself.
And so I think the big question here for the Liberals, at least it seems, in post-budget 2024 is how do they close the gap? And based on what you're seeing from the federal government right now, do you think that they can close the gap on the Conservatives with their current approach? Do they need to shift gears? And if so, by doing what?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, but I look at the pre-budget leaks, the week leading up to the budget, the inviting digital creators and influencers to the media lockup for the budget. the prime minister appearing on US podcasts. These are tactics you take when you have no other options. The Liberals seem reluctant to spend their ad budget, so they're trying everything they can to reach Canadians in new ways, but they're not particularly effective. This isn't going to give them that 5-point bump by July that they've been talking about. And these tactics certainly aren't going to narrow that 20-point polling gap between them and the Conservatives. You need a proper advertising budget to reach Canadians and change public opinion.
Cole, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks for having me.